This study looked at the effectiveness of stress management training on blood glucose control. They took 230 individuals with type 2 diabetes. The experimental group essentially received stress management training, and the control group just received the standard of care. At the beginning, there was no perceived difference in stress scores. However, after the intervention, the mean stress score of the experimental group was significantly lower than the control group, indicating the stress management training did indeed work. At the beginning, their levels of HbA1c were unchanged. HbA1c is a measurement of your glycated hemoglobin. Glycation is a process of adding glucose to a protein, and hemoglobin are your red blood cells. So your HbA1c is essentially measuring the percentage of your red blood cells with glucose attached. The higher your blood glucose levels have been, the more of your red blood cells will have been glycated. Because the more glucose in your bloodstream, the more likely this glucose will attach to your red blood cells. After the stress management intervention, the HbA1c of the diabetics in the experimental group was drastically lower than that in the control group, indicating that somehow this stress management was able to reduce the severity of their diabetes. The reason for this is the following. Insulin resistance is the most powerful predictor of the development of type 2 diabetes, and for most people it is the main root cause. We do know that glucocorticoids, specifically cortisol that are released during stress, increase insulin resistance. They do this by increasing the concentration of free fatty acids. Through a series of mechanisms, these free fatty acids disrupt proper insulin signaling by adding a phosphate molecule onto a protein called IRS1. Importantly, this IRS1 is the very first protein involved in the insulin signaling cascade. This phosphorylation essentially inactivates this protein, thus insulin signaling does not occur properly, and we refer to this as insulin resistance. Insulin resistance decreases our cells' ability to uptake glucose out of the bloodstream. Additionally, these glucocorticoids increase glucose production and release into the bloodstream. So through both of these mechanisms, glucocorticoids can increase blood glucose. The more glucose in our bloodstream, the more of our hemoglobin become glycated. And since HbA1c is a marker of diabetes, a higher HbA1c also indicates a more severe diabetes. So stress management is actually one of the best tools to help mitigate the negative consequences and possibly even reverse type 2 diabetes. And it can even reduce HbA1c and insulin requirements for type 1 diabetics as well, which is just a different type of diabetes in which patients cannot actually produce insulin in the first place.